Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is Ryan, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. Now, if you were all good little boys and girls and watched my most anticipated video game of 2021 is video, you would know that my most anticipated video game of 2021 is Outriders, releasing next month on April 1st. No, that is not a practical joke, that is the actual release date. Now, what I find really appealing about Outriders is not only its genre, a sci-fi third-person looter-shooter, but the actual developers of the game itself and their pro-consumer actions and transparency. Developer People Can Fly are doing something a bit unprecedented in the modern AAA video game space. They've released a full-fledged classical demo before the launch of their game. No, this isn't a limited time early access beta testing phase or anything like that. Outriders has a legitimate classical demo, and you don't need to pre-order the game to access it or anything like that. It's totally free for everyone to download and keep and play for as long as you like. It's even got full-fledged co-op multiplayer support and cross-play enabled. I can't emphasize enough how much I fucking love this, and I want this to become a gold standard and a mainstay throughout all of gaming. Bring back demos. Demos help sell games. But I'll get off my soapbox for a moment now and actually give you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the Outriders demo. In short, before the demo patch, yes, the developers actually patched the demo. Before the patch, my overall feelings were, I like this, but it's got some problems. Some really nagging issues that bring down the experience. Now my feelings post-patch, I love this. I really freaking love this. You see, in my original script for this video, I included a bunch of criticisms about the demo. The invasive and pervasive motion blur, several random moments of lag and FPS drops, constant, and I mean constant crashing, especially in co-op. These technical issues were really bringing down the experience for me. And I was originally going to be all like, yeah, I liked the Outriders demo. The Outriders demo was good, but with a lot of caveats. I really hope the developers can fix these issues before the release of the game, because if not, it's really going to taint the initial reception. But the absolute mad lads over at People Can Fly actually patched the demo and fixed all my problems. So yeah, I'm not so worried about the full release and launch of this game. I think Outriders is looking like a pretty safe purchase. So yeah, the Outriders demo, as it is right now, I fucking love it. And I literally cannot wait for the full game right now. I want it now. I want to play the full game of Outriders right now. Alright, let's get into some details. So this is a very generous demo. You're getting the entire opening prologue and first story chapter of the game. There's several solid hours of content to sink your teeth into if you don't rush the thing, and all of it totally replayable. And to top it all off, any progress you make in the demo can carry over to the full game. A mighty generous package, I must say. As for the contents of the demo itself and what I think of them, starting off with graphics, just like almost every modern video game nowadays, whether it be AAA or indie, it looks great, it looks beautiful. Textures, all across the board, whether it be character models, props, or environmental decals, are highly detailed. While sporting a peculiar art style, it's hyper-realistic, yet hints of over-the-top cartoony aesthetics. Very similar, I find, to People Can Fly's previous game, Bulletstorm, just leaning a bit more towards the hyper-realistic angle. Lighting in this game is, superb. Really does an excellent job of establishing atmosphere, whether you're just walking around exploring the world in the middle of combat, but especially in the cutscenes. Oh, the use of light and shadows and colors! I see the obvious inspirations when it comes to cinematography. I get the impression that quite a few of the devs are some real movie buffs. Lastly, when it comes to graphics, I have to mention the particle effects. Like the rest of the game, they're over the top, violent, and very eye-catching with a ton of detail. Especially when it comes to the blood and gore and making your enemies explode in a hot mess.
Giggity giggity, giggity goo. Stick around.
So based off the demo, graphics so far in Outriders, looking mighty good. Except for, and I want to point this out despite it being patched, the motion blur. Now pre-patch you couldn't turn off the motion blur, and by God did it make its presence known. The singular criticism I have for Outriders from a graphics perspective. I'm not over-exaggerating when I say this, some of the worst motion blur I've ever seen in a video game. It's so bad it's competing with Quantum Break. for how bad motion blur can actively degrade your experience in a video game. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with motion blur in general, in principle, and I'd argue that most video games, most modern video games, do motion blur right, where it's not too powerful, it's not too intensive, it's noticeable, but it doesn't make the entire scene look like a blurry mess, a water painting in motion. Outriders has genuinely good visuals and graphics, but the motion blur is so invasive, so pervasive, that it actually makes the game's graphics look far worse than they actually are. Do yourself a favor, if you plan on playing the Outriders demo, or playing the full game, turn off motion blur immediately. This is something I would actually love to question the developers about. Like, you played the game with this motion blur on, and you thought this was good? You thought this was acceptable? The developers over at People Can Fly are obviously very talented, but I don't know what they were thinking when it came to this motion blur. Anyways, moving on from graphics, my initial thoughts on the story so far, the story presented in the demo. I really liked it. I was immediately engaged, invested, and interested. It's a very unique premise for a sci-fi story, one that appears to be fully fleshed out. Based off the demo, Outriders appears to have a fully fleshed out codex, detailing characters, story events, environments, very similar to what we've seen in games like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Doom. Outriders is no slouch when it comes to lore and world building. They are taking the writing and development of their characters and the world very seriously, even the minor characters, surprisingly, that you see for only a few seconds and then die. An interesting design and writing decision, but I appreciate it nonetheless. So the world, the premise, the setting, I am invested, I'm interested, I want to know more, I want to see how this evolves and expands in the full game. I especially want to know how all these crazy creatures and aliens we see in all the trailers and marketing material play in the grand scheme of things. But mostly I just want more of our boy Jacob. Jacob is so far my favorite character. He is such a bro. And the friendship between him and your protagonist is so wholesome. I love it.
Hey, in case I don't get another chance, I tried to find you, but it all went to shit. We had to run for our lives.
Forget it. I'm alive. We should have been dead 10 times over, if not for Tanner, if not for Shira. I'm the one with dues to pay now, Yakum.
Boss, I missed you. It's good to have you back. Now go beat that Altered's ass for us, so we can get back in this goddamn fight.
So yeah, based off the demo so far, I like the story, I like the characters, I want more, I'm really fascinated to see where this goes. Now last, but certainly not least, and most important of all as a matter of fact, the gameplay. What are my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the gameplay? Well, you've probably already guessed the answer. I really like it. It feels like a third-person looter shooter that was made for fans of the new Doom games. And if you know anything about me, you know Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal are my favorite first-person shooters and favorite video games of all time, so Outriders is absolutely my style. You see, there's 4 playable classes: Devastator, Trickster, Pyromancer, and Technomancer. And while all of them certainly offer different gameplay styles, unique abilities, and slight variations on how you regain health, but 2 things remain consistent throughout all of the classes. You're encouraged to be as aggressive as possible in order to deal the most efficient amount of damage and regain health. Killing shit keeps you alive. And the other thing all the classes have in common? Your melee is extremely powerful and useful at all times. With other video games in the same genre as Outriders, usually you have to spec towards making your melee actually useful and good and viable. You have to build up to making a melee build. Outriders is like, fuck that, your melee attacks are going to be some of the most useful tools in your kit at all times. Be aggressive, get in your enemies' faces, fuck them up. I love this style of gameplay. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy third-person shooters with a focus on being tactical and taking cover, but when it comes to Outriders and what's been presented in the demo so far, I'm really digging the emphasis on player empowerment and just playing into the power fantasy. I also find that, so far as presented in the demo, Outriders seems to have, based on the demo, has found a really good balance of making both the player's skill at the gameplay and the statistics on your loot matter equally. All the class abilities presented so far in the demo combo off of each other very well for devastating results, but that's completely dependent on player timing and positioning, and you can amplify those devastating results even further with how you customize the character with in-game loot, weapons, and armor. Initial impressions of loot and progression in Outriders based on the demo? Really freaking good so far. Every piece of armor and every weapon I picked up and equipped very noticeably changed the way I play. Weapons and armor drop with different perks, usually applying debuffs to your enemies or just buffing your overall damage with unique effects, while armor perks always just straight up buff your abilities. Examples include just straight up more damage, faster ability cooldowns, longer ability durations, extra healing for yourself and your allies, and so much more. You name it, there's a buff for it. You know how in so many looter shooter games it takes hours upon hours before you actually start considering and constructing a build, specializing your character into a certain gameplay role? That's usually reserved for what is referred to as in these sorts of games as the end game. But with Outriders, literally within the first hour or two, you're customizing your character's loadout in meaningful ways. You're making a build. Throughout my playtime with the demo, I was constantly faced with the dilemma of, do I want to switch out this gun for this other gun? Like, this gun does more damage technically, but this other gun has a real nice perk that combos well with my abilities. Or, ooh, this piece of armor really buffs my ability, but this other piece of armor has another real good buff that buffs another one of my abilities that combos with another ability. Literally within the first couple hours, Outriders has you considering and making meaningful decisions when it comes to your loot. Getting loot in the Outriders demo is always exciting because it either means, ooh, this loot will either buff my stats or give me an awesome new perk, or I can dismantle it for useful resources that I can use later in the full game that has a fully fledged crafting system where all of these materials and perk customization matter even more. What I'm getting at here is the loot and progression system is good, and this is just the fucking demo. Now when it comes to more of the specifics of gameplay, I initially didn't like the movement system. I found it a bit too fast, a bit too floaty, but I really grew to like the movement system. The speed and almost weightlessness of your character at times was a real lifesaver when you're getting swarmed by melee enemies, or having to fall back when you've been off a bit more than you can chew. Weapons, gunplay is fucking great. Satisfying and impactful when it comes to the animations and the special effects and the sound effects, matched with the extremely satisfying dismemberment, blood and gore system. Your weapons and abilities can literally tear enemies into pieces and make them explode into a shower of blood. So fucking satisfying. Feels so good, man. All of the different classes, Devastator, Trickster, Pyromancer, Technomancer, all felt truly unique from one another and offered really varying combat gameplay experiences. And once again, I have to mention, this is just in the demo. Imagine how crazy these class abilities can get when you're fully leveled up. Last thing I want to touch on when it comes to gameplay, and a bit of a criticism, is the enemy variety. Now, I know this is just the demo, this is just the opening, prologue, and first chapter of the story, but even for this just being a demo, and it literally being the first couple hours, the beginning of the game, I would have liked to see a bit more enemy variety. All we got to fight was one dumb alien animal, rifle guys, shotgun guys, sniper guys, and melee guys. I mean, yes, for a demo and the opening hours of a game, this isn't all that bad. It's actually arguably perfectly fine. But I really, really hope that in the full game there is much more enemy variety, more enemy factions. Say what you will about the looter-shooter genre, even if you dislike these types of games, you gotta admit one of their strengths is the enemy variety and diversity. I hope Outriders continues that genre trend, and that we have way more types of enemies to fight, a lot more cool aliens, and not just guys with guns. One last thing I want to praise about the demo, and a feature that's coming to the full game of Outriders, the story replay function. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, look at this. Look at this! You can replay any specific point of the story you want. You're not fucking locked out of anything. It's available right from the get-go. Just total, complete story replay functionality and control. I fucking love this. This again should be a gold standard in all video games. Fucking love it. Anyways, those have been my thoughts, feelings, opinions, and impressions on the Outriders demo. So yeah, I quite liked it. I really liked it. I fucking loved it. I can't wait for the full game. And hey, this is a classic demo. You can download this for free right now and play it for yourself. And then come back here and let me know what you think. So yeah, thanks to this demo and the continued efforts of developer People Can Fly, Outriders continues to be my most anticipated game of the year 2021. Really looking forward to playing the full game. I can't wait. I've never thought I'd say this before, but April 1st can't come soon enough. Anyways, that's been a video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to hit the like button. Leave your opinions in the comment section down below. If you want to help out and support this video, then please share it on social media. Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And if you want to help out and support me directly, well, there are links to my Ko-Fi and my Patreon in the description down below as well. Anyways, once again, that's been a video, and I'll see you all later.